Saturday night, Dereck Chisora takes on Ondrej at the Copper Box Arena here in London, UK. Ondrej is a late replacement because two previous opponents for this particular date pulled out. So Chisora's going into this fight a little blind. Yeah, he's going into it a little blind. Apparently, according to his trainer, Don Charles, they were actually going to fight Parler, I think earlier this year, or was it late last year? Not 100% sure which it was, but, you know, at some point in time, they were actually looking at fighting Parler previously. So they've had a look at him on YouTube, but at the end of the day, Dereck Chisora's two previous opponents were very tall opponents. Both of them were like 6'6", somewhere around that height. So now he's in there with a much shorter opponent. And as we've seen in previous fights, Chisora tends to get hit more clean against shorter opponents. Guys who are hitting him, guys who are, looking him in the eye when they're fighting him, they're able to hit him with cleaner punches and actually hit him on the chin rather than the top of the head like the taller guys. And they're able to hurt him. He was knocked out by David Haye. He was hurt quite badly by Sam Sexton. He was hurt in his last fight quite badly by Edmund Gerber. And these are all shorter guys. He obviously was also hurt by Robert Helenius, who's a much taller fighter. So it's not impossible for the taller fighters to hurt him, but it seems to be more of a trend that he tends to get hurt against shorter fighters who can actually find his chin a bit easier. So this guy Parler, if you watch him, he's not very impressive. He's around 6'3", so not too much taller than Dereck, only an inch or so in it. He has quite a relaxed style for a European fighter. I believe he's from the Czech Republic. Fights with his left hand down, his left hand low. Quite relaxed, relatively fluid for a European fighter. His jab is okay. Nothing amazing, really. There's nothing when you look at him that makes you think, okay, this guy's going to be dangerous for Dereck. But as we saw in the Gerber fight, Gerber is about as limited as they come when it comes to heavyweight contenders. And Gerber was able to hurt Dereck Chisora. Now, Parler has been talking a lot of smack in the short build-up to this fight. Ever since the fight was signed, Parler's been saying he's going to knock Chisora out. He's going to lay him down, lay him out, face first on the canvas. So he seems to be coming into the fight with a lot of confidence. And if he manages to hurt Dereck the way that Edmund Gerber did, then the likelihood is he'll actually finish Dereck off, or at least attempt to, because Edmund Gerber really let Dereck Chisora off the hook. Showed far too much respect, didn't get involved the way that he should have done, and really he let his opportunity slip for the European heavyweight title. And like I say, if Parler backs up his talk in the ring, then he may not let Dereck Chisora off the hook if he catches him. Now, what is the likelihood of him catching Dereck Chisora? Well, Dereck's never been the greatest guy defensively, and his defense works better against taller opponents, bobbing and weaving underneath their punches. So, it's possible that he could get caught, but I'm not sure Parler is a big enough puncher to really make it count. I mean, most heavyweights can punch, to one degree or another. Pretty much any heavyweight in the top 20, if you stand there with your chin, with your hands down and your chin in the air, and you give them a free shot, they can hurt you. So Dereck needs to be careful. But really and truly, he should have the beating of this guy, and he should be able to stop this guy. Yeah. Parler's best wins were against an ancient Henry Akinwande back in about 2008 or 2009, and Konstantin Erich. And he fought Erich twice. He beat him first on points the first time, and in the rematch, he lost by a TKO. I believe it was in about the 9th round, and that was just a couple of fights ago. Parler has a decent KO ratio, but most of his knockouts have come against very weak opposition. And that doesn't necessarily mean he can't punch, but what it does mean is that he's not able to land knockout punches on quality opposition for the most part. He manages to land those hot, heavy shots against weaker opposition who are less able to defend themselves. So, yeah, Chisora should win this fight. He should be able to stop Parler or maybe get a clear points victory. We'll have to see how it turns out, but that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting maybe a late stoppage or a clear points victory. Parler, like I say, very unimpressive. to me. Very unimpressive. I think Dereck will just be too strong for him, and he should be able to overwhelm him and maybe take him out down the stretch, or maybe win on points. I was more confident that Dereck could stop Edmund Gerber than I am of him stopping Parler. I think Parler is a little bit slicker, a little bit more wily and awkward than Edmund Gerber was. Edmund Gerber really was a sitting duck for Dereck Chisora, whereas I think Parler could be a little bit more tricky. Again, this is heavyweight boxing. If Dereck manages to land a big shot, you never know what could happen. Or if Parler manages to land a big shot, you never know what could happen. But I think the most likely scenario is this fight goes into the late rounds and Chisora either stops him late or gets a points victory. If you saw Parler's fight against Konstantin Eric is, I guess, a similar fighter to Chisora. Don't really have the head movement. What I will tell you about, what's his name, Konstantin Eric, is that Eric is a harder puncher than Dereck Chisora. Quite a lot harder puncher, right? I think, Konstantin Eric is one of those guys who really hits very hard, but because of his lack of skill and his lack of confidence against top-level fighters, that punching power never really manifests itself in the ring a lot of the time, because he don't really have the skill to land the shots or the confidence to land those big power shots. But I really think that I keep on mixing him up with Gerber. I really do think that Konstantin Eric really has quite serious punching power there. Certainly, if you talk to Danny Williams, he'll tell you that Konstantin Eric is one of the hardest punches he ever faced, right up there next to Klitschko and Tyson. Yeah, believe it or not. So yeah, I think Chisora should win the fight. Here's one thing I will say though. This is one thing that I'm a little bit unsure about, is Dereck Chisora's weight. We all like the fact that Dereck Chisora's weight has been coming down, but has he been losing the weight the right way? And what I mean by that is he's been on these meals. I believe they're called Soulmate Foods, some company that supplies nutritious meals. I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to modern day nutrition in sports, especially a sport like boxing. Boxers, especially heavyweight boxers, they need a tremendous amount of calories to be able to function at 100% in the ring. Boxing is a very calorie intensive sport. You need a lot of calories to be able to do this stuff. As I said, especially at heavyweight. And with these super nutritious scientific diets, I'm not 100% sure they provide enough calories for these heavyweights, because they tend to have a one-size-fits-all policy and mentality towards these meals that they provide for people. I think meals in a sport like boxing need to be catered towards a fighter in terms of their style, in terms of their muscle mass, in terms of their ethnicity. Because people don't really understand. I don't know why people don't get this. You can't feed every ethnicity the same kind of food and expect the same kind of results. Yeah? Depending on where you're from in the world and where your family originates from, your body may well respond differently to different kind of foods than someone of a different race or a different geographical ethnicity, So these are things that a lot of these nutrition companies and nutritionists don't seem to take into account. Yeah, that's one thing I always find just in my personal life, is if I don't eat food based around my ethnicity and where I'm from geographically, I find that my body doesn't function as well. If I'm not eating certain things like a lot of rice and plantain and a lot of fish, very heavy on fish, because I'm from a country where fish is pretty much the staple diet in terms of meat, far more than chicken and far more than beef, and it's been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So fish is a very important part of my diet personally. I find my body functions much better on fish, but everyone might not be the same. Other people who are from a different part of the world, different ethnicity, they might find that they function better on chicken or beef or whatever. And the same goes for the fruits and the vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So Dereck is African. He's Southern African. I'm not 100% sure what type of food they eat in Southern Africa. I know in East Africa they eat a lot of foods like matoke and different kinds of grains and stuff like that. So I hope Dereck is getting nutrition that suits his ethnicity and his body type and his boxing style, because his particular style requires a lot of calories. And if you look at the old school fighters back in the day, the Henry Armstrongs, the Sugar Ray Robertsons, guys who had hundreds of fights and they were fighting 15 rounders, and before that they were fighting even longer than 15 rounders, 20, 25 rounds. These guys were able to go at a good pace all night long. And they were not eating these scientific diets, these scientific foods. They were eating potatoes, meat, rice, pasta, without necessarily having boiled meat. You know, a lot of the time they were eating meat with the fat on. You know, and you do actually need, I firmly believe you do actually need quite a bit of fat in your diet, especially as a heavyweight. I'm not saying you should go out there and eat McDonald's and fried chicken, but I'm talking about the natural fat that comes with, it comes on these animals. I believe it is good to consume it, because fat provides a lot of energy, you know. And like I say, especially for a guy like Dereck Chisora, his type of style requires a lot of energy. People don't realize this, but according to one of Mike Tyson's sparring partners, when Mike Tyson was in his prime, yeah, it's a guy called Joe Egan. When Mike Tyson was in his prime, for breakfast every morning, he used to eat a massive plate of sausages. That's what Tyson was eating. Wasn't eating no scientific diet and all that. The guy was eating a massive plate full of sausages, you know, and it was working for him in his prime. A lot of these nutritionists, they can get you looking ripped and looking like a bodybuilder. But when you look at a bodybuilder, their body might look impressive, but it's not functional. These guys diet to produce the best and most impressive physique, but they don't aesthetically, but they don't necessarily diet to have the most functional body. And in boxing, the most important thing is not a physique. A physique is good, all right, because it shows that you've trained hard and it impresses your opponent a lot of the time, but impresses him in terms of it can intimidate him. But the most important thing is functionality. Yeah, it's all good having a chiseled physique, but do you have the energy levels with that chiseled physique? You know, I definitely do not believe that carrying body fat or excess body fat like Chisora used to helps your punch resistance in any way. That's, to me, total nonsense that body fat could ever help your punch resistance. It don't. But what can hinder your punch resistance is if you're not getting enough calories in your diet, because then you're going to come in weak and you won't be able to function in the same way with the same kind of energy levels that you need to function at when you're in the fight. And looking at some of Dereck Chisora's training footage, even though he's lost a lot of weight, to me, he doesn't seem as energetic as I would have hoped to see him looking coming in at this weight. You know, I always found that when I'd start to lose weight, my energy levels would just skyrocket. And I would lose weight the right way. I wouldn't starve myself or anything like that. I would just train very hard and, eat sensibly without going overboard in some type of scientific diet. And I would find that my energy levels would go through the roof. You know, not just in the gym, but just in general. I would just have way more energy. You know, as soon as I started training, I was eating, sensibly. But I don't know. I think you can go overboard with a diet. Like I say, with a bodybuilder's diet. If you put a bodybuilder, a guy who trains and eats just to have a chiseled physique, if you put that kind of guy in a strongman competition, he ain't going to win the competition. Because them strongmen, they're not training to have a chiseled physique necessarily. They're training to have functional strength. Yeah? And to have functional strength, those strongmen consume a tremendous amount of calories, a lot of carbohydrates, as well as a lot of protein. So, I don't know. I just hope Dereck Chisora's new physique is functional. Yeah, I hope he's lost the weight the right way, and I hope he's getting the right kind of nutrition for his particular ethnic makeup and his particular racial ethnicity. So, I don't know. That's just my little 2 cents, my little ramblings on the whole issue. Dereck Chisora should have enough to take care of Ondrej's parlor. But in the long run, I hope his nutrition is properly thought out. And, I'm still a little bit of a skeptic of this new age, nutrition stuff in boxing. Anyway, let me stop rambling. Drop your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.